2020 has finally come to an end, and with that, it is time to give a breakdown on what was the best and worst of the year in terms of movies and shows. But for this one, it's time to talk about some of my favorites and what I consider to be among the best films I've seen in 2020. I'm going to start at number 10, and we're going to work my way up to my number 1 favorite movie spot. And again, these are my favorites, so there might be some movies on here that might make you roll your eyes or make you scratch your head or wonder what the fuck is this doing on his list. Well, this is my list. These are the movies that resonated with me most. These are the ones that excited me most for a couple reasons I will give. So this is just mine, and after this is over, I'd love to hear your list. Before we jump into number 10, I do want to give one honorable mention for a movie that didn't make my list, but the honorable mention is for Hamilton, which premiered on Disney Plus this summer. I love Hamilton so fucking much, but I just don't consider this to be a traditional movie. I feel like it was just a staged performance that was filmed professionally. So with that in mind, I'm not going to include it on my list of favorite movies just because I don't consider it really a traditional movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an amazing musical. I highly recommend it. It's on Disney Plus. Go watch it if you haven't. Your mind might be blown. It's time to kick it off, and in my number 10 spot, we have a fucking Kristen Stewart movie in Happiest Season. I went in with very little expectations for this movie, but oh my god, was it charming as hell, and it was so funny and heartfelt, but it wasn't dumb. It wasn't like a Hallmark or Netflix holiday movie. No offense, but they have a reputation for a reason. I thought Happiest Season was so refreshing, very smartly written, great representation for the LGBTQ community, but the cast was phenomenal. It was a great ensemble piece. It was probably one of Kristen Stewart's better performances because she had to fucking carry the movie, and I actually really liked it. It was so charming. It's definitely going to remain a holiday movie I will revisit during the holiday seasons in the future. In my number 9 spot, we have Spontaneous, which is a movie that I'm sure hardly any of you even know about. And that is a shame because this movie was so surprising. It was one of the most nerve-wracking movie watching experiences I've honestly ever had in my life. I don't remember the last time I was that stressed out watching a movie, and you'll understand why as you watch it because it involves teenagers randomly exploding, and you have no idea when it's gonna happen. It's really smart. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before. The acting was superb. It was probably one of the better performances I've seen by Catherine Langford. It is heartfelt and also has a very, very powerful message upon embracing the life that you have and not wasting any time on it. It is such a refreshingly fun movie, even if it was incredibly stressful to sit through. And in my number 8 spot, we have Enola Holmes. Oh my god, this was a really scrappy, fun as hell movie, and it is now streaming on Netflix. It stars Millie Bobby Brown in the lead. We know her from Stranger Things, but this is an entirely different, charismatic, scrappy, quick, funny side of her that we've never seen. It also stars Henry Cavill and Stan Claflin and Helena Bonham Carter. Henry Cavill is fun, but he's not in it all that often. But it's all about Enola Holmes, not Sherlock Holmes. Move over, Sherlock. Fuck you very much. Just kidding. I loved Enola Holmes. It was so fun. It was so quick. It was so high energy. Yes, it is geared more towards like a younger audience, I would argue. So if you'll probably learn really quickly within the first 15 minutes if it's going to be your cup of tea or not. It certainly was my cup of tea. I thought Millie Bobby Brown probably gave one of her best acting performances to date. I would love for this to start a franchise. This movie was so quick and so sharp and well-intentioned, and it was so energetic. And in my number 7 spot, we have a movie that I'm sure a lot of you don't even know about, and which is also a shame because it is Palm Springs, which is on Hulu. So go watch it. It is so unpredictable. It is so funny. It is so well-intentioned. It is well-paced. It is well acted. If you really want a good comedy that is also smart, also heartfelt, and it happens to be a bit of a romance with a Groundhog Day type twist, please do yourself a favor and go have a refreshingly good time with Palm Springs. And in my number 6 spot, who's ready for a little bit of controversy? Because that is Tenet by Christopher Nolan. Say what you will. I understand why this film did not win as many Nolanites over as we probably would have liked, but I honestly had a really great time with Tenet. Yes, it is narcissistically complex, and it is up its own ass in terms of script and plot, and it is very layered and convoluted, almost too much for its own good. And yes, it requires at least 2 to 3 viewings to really make sense of what you're watching, but I was having a fucking great time from start to finish. The entire 2.5 hours were incredibly exhilarating, very well acted by the entire cast, and Christopher Nolan really outdid himself with the visual effects, the practical effects like he tries to strive for. He blew my mind with it. So even though there were some qualms I had with how the story presented itself and how it should have been made a little bit more accessible to general audience goers, but it's still a really fun film. I had a great time, and I actually did manage to see this on the big screen, and so that was also equally as epic. Exciting story once you understand it. So go in with an open mind, pay attention to everything. And in my number 5 spot, we have Soul, Pixar's latest epic, which is now streaming on Disney+. Soul is the epitome of what makes Pixar movies fantastic. I just did a review on it, but the story couldn't have been any more inventive, original, and creative as it already was. It's kind of like they even outdid themselves to some degrees. This film is also hysterical. It is heartfelt. It did make me cry and tear up. It didn't make me cry as much as like Inside Out or Up did, so I wouldn't call it the best Pixar movie ever made, but it's definitely among the ranks of some of the best in Pixar. There was so much story not given away in the previews. It was such a surprising film. This movie is highly intelligent, the most mature Pixar movie we've ever gotten. It is just highly evocative, philosophical. There is a lot of depth. Hands down, I'd say the easy winner for Best Animated Feature at next year's Oscars. All right, who's ready for a little bit more controversy? Because I have a film swinging in at number 4, and a film that has sadly become so divisive, which is such a shame to me. But at number 4, with pride, I am listing Wonder Woman 1984. Yes, this movie is completely different than the first film in so many ways. But the one thing that I feel like is consistent across the board between these two Wonder Woman movies is the actors, Gal Gadot, Chris Pine. Yes, the script is a little bit muddled. It is a little bit flawed in terms of pacing. There are some things that could have been better elaborated upon and better explained, but I thought that there were so many amazing moments within this movie, and I've seen it nearly 3 times now. It took some risks. It took some big swings. Yes, it's not as good as the first one. I still think the first one is superior, but this is still a solid follow-up in this franchise that gave me moments of heart that gave me chills, and it only gets better for me upon multiple viewings. And so that is why I'm happy to have it so high up on my list, because I felt like it really did burrow a place in my heart, and I have no shame about that. And in my number 3 spot, people, we have Emma. This is my second favorite Jane Austen adaptation brought to film behind the original Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth. I've watched Emma so many times now. It is such a rewatchable film, but it's unlike any Jane Austen film we've ever gotten because it is so fucking funny. It is hysterical. The humor is so quick. It's so dry. If you love British humor, you will love Emma. And I know, well, it's a Jane Austen film, which means it's boring. No, it is not boring. This is so funny. It is so rewatchable. Jane Austen wrote Emma as a comedy, and I personally did not find the Gwyneth Paltrow version very funny. If anything, I thought it was kind of cringe sometimes because of how awkward the situations were. This Emma, this adaptation, is phenomenal. Anya Taylor-Joy is a godsend of an actress sent to us in 2020. I mean, she gave us Emma, she gave us The Queen's Gambit. This girl is on a roll. She is fantastic in the lead role. And if you love Queen's Gambit and you've seen her, but you haven't seen Emma, you are going to love Emma. But the movie is just so refreshing. It is so unlike any Jane Austen adaptation we've ever gotten. And in my number 2 spot, yet another film that I managed to see before the pandemic really swallowed up the rest of the year. And that number 2 film would be The Invisible Man. But I don't like scary movies. I hate being scared. But with the audience reaction, the critic reaction to this film, not to mention that I love Elizabeth Moss as an actress, I was so interested to see what this movie was going to present. I wanted to be in on the conversation. I wanted to know what everyone was talking about. And my God, this film is phenomenal. Oh my God, it is well told. Elizabeth Moss kills it. It is highly suspenseful, but if you don't like scary movies, like I don't like scary movies, it's not going to be that type of scary that gives you nightmares. It's a high suspense thriller in my eyes, to where the scariest image you'll see is an empty room. This movie was invigorating, exhilarating, but also provides a very, very kind of a powerful commentary on abusive relationships. It's definitely an exaggerated metaphor, but it worked, and it's highly empowering. Oh my God, I felt like I could spit fire at the end of this movie. You'll understand when you see it, but I highly, highly recommend it. It's so much more than just being the horror movie of the year. It is so well done. It is so well structured, so well shot, so well paced, and so well acted. I can't praise this movie enough. And in my number one spot, my favorite film of 2020 is The Trial of the Chicago 7, which you can watch on Netflix. It's the latest film by Aaron Sorkin. I love Aaron Sorkin for his writing and his film work in the past. The Trial of the Chicago 7 literally had me crying so hard at the end, and I was here just in the privacy of my own apartment, and I stood up and I clapped. I gave a standing ovation. I've never felt compelled to do that. And I'm not even in a fucking theater around people who are doing the same thing. I'm in my fucking living room. I stood up and clapped while crying, sobbing at the end of this movie because it was so powerful to me. The dialogue is so sharp, and it is so quick, and it's fast. It's not slow. It's not a slog. The acting is phenomenal, and I argue that we're going to see a number of the guys in this film up for awards nominations come awards season for their acting. Everyone did a superb job. This movie is so poignant, especially releasing in a year where we experience a level of civil unrest around discrimination or police brutality or justice. This movie was commanding. This movie was engaging. I was glued to this story, to these characters, to see how it unfolds. I thought that Aaron Sorkin did a superb job within this movie. I thought that his directing was great. Obviously, he has no bad script in my eyes with what he writes, his dialogue, his actors. He knows his actors. He knows what he wants in his scenes, and I thought that he really just exceeded my expectations in just about every single way. And again, it left me giving it a standing ovation by the end of this film. Go check out The Trial of the Chicago 7 on Netflix. It's exhilarating, and I hope that you feel just as empowered by it and educated by it after you've seen it. And there you have it, everyone. Those are my top 10 favorite films of 2020. I'm curious to know what your favorite films of the year were, so feel free to list them in the comments down below. Maybe there will be some that I need to check out that I just haven't seen. As always, thank you all for tuning in. It's been quite a year. I can't wait for the films of 2021. And until next time, I'm Ryan Bamey, signing off. Bye, everyone.